Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am honored to welcome you to a Women's History Moment celebrating Black women in politics, a conversation on civic engagement. My name is Naya Hardman. I am a sophomore journalism major at Howard University, and I engage with my community through the art of spoken word poetry. Today, I am joined by two wonderful young ladies who will now let you know a little bit about themselves.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Bianca Bennett Scott. I attend the illustrious Florida Memorial University, where I'm a senior majoring in law and government, and I engage in civic engagement through state and national consultant for the foster care system.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Thomas. I am a senior international studies major at Spelman College, and I serve my community through anchoring and producing for my campus news station, the Brunson. We believe that civic engagement means citizens interacting with their community for the betterment of their society and environment.
As Black women, we believe it is our responsibility to continue the trend of advocacy established by our ancestors and stand on the forefronts to fight for the rights of all people.
We will now share a quote by a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Miss Dorothy Height, and it says, "I want to be remembered as someone who used herself and anything she could touch to work for justice and freedom. I want to be remembered as one who tried."
Today, we will be interviewing Mayor Felicia Brunson, Mayor Tamara Jones, and State Representative Felicia Robinson. So I'm going to ask each of you to basically give a small interview, an introduction of yourself, and tell me what you think government is. Let's start with Mayor Felicia Brunson.
Thank you so much for having me again. I am Felicia Brunson, mayor from the beautiful city of West Park. We are Broward County's 31st city. I am proud to say that my background in government stems way back. I am one of the founders for the city of West Park, lobbied the state and the county for us to become a city. And now 16 years later, we are standing strong. And like I said, the 31st city in Broward County. What is government? What is politics? What is being an elected official and all that kind of good stuff? It's just about engaging your community. It's about being a community servant, to desiring to move your city forward, listening to person's needs and desires, coming up with solutions, just being a listening ear for folks when they have problems, issues, and concerns, and you are there to help them solve their problem and making folks' lives better. You want to make sure that whatever you do, that you leave people in a better space than they were when you found them. So that's basically what, as a public servant, that we do.
Hi, I am Mayor Tamara James from the city of Dania Beach. We are, unlike Mayor Felicia Brunson, the last city that was incorporated, we are the first city in Broward County. I was elected initially in 2016, and I was just recently reelected in 2020. I am a former professional basketball player, so I don't have a long history in politics. But to me, government means being a voice for the voiceless. And that is one of the reasons why I ran for my seat. I did not like the representation that our elected officials were serving us at that capacity. And instead of complaining, I decided to do something about it. So government to me is being able to acknowledge the issues, listen to your constituents and your residents, and to put action behind your words. Because a lot of the times people in certain communities don't have the ability or the resources to be able to email or induce the type of change that is needed. But when you have women, powerful women, or local leaders who are able to put their foot on the gas pedal and to be the change that you can actually see in your communities, I think that that governing body turns into something that can be transformational in your communities.
Hello, thank you for having me. I am State Representative Felicia Robinson, and I cover the district of House District 102, which covers parts of Pembroke Pines, Miramar, and Miami Gardens. A little history about me is that I have been elected locally. So I served the city of Miami Gardens for 8 years. So I have some experience with local government. And now I am serving on the state level where I cover parts of 2 counties and 3 municipalities. When I think about government, I think government is something that it's a system that helps to give guidelines to communities. Government is in different forms. As I stated earlier, I've served locally. Now I'm serving at the state level. And then we do know that we have government at the national level. And all three are very important. I think that government is closest to the people at the local level. And that's where you are truly a servant for the residents in the community. And it's very important that you stay engaged and that you can relate to the issues and concerns that's going on, because that's what's going to truly build community and move your community forward. The main reason that I decided to run for the state seat is because as a local elected official, I recognized that we needed elected officials at the state level that can work along with our local government to make sure that there is a smooth transition, because the government does need to work together, just like communities need to work together. So I'm here now at the Florida State House, and I'm trying to make sure that that transition truly happens.
Thank you so much to all of our politicians for being here. Those are great answers. So now I'm going to kick it over to Naya's questions for Mayor Tamara James of Dania Beach.
Mayor Tamara James of Dania Beach, I'd like to begin with you. First of all, thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to be able to speak with you today. I truly admire how you're able to incorporate your former career as a WNBA athlete into your current restorative work. For example, the Tamara James Foundation Incorporated uses sports to provide opportunities for children, families, and communities as a whole. How would you suggest others could follow your lead and tap into their personal hobbies and interests to positively impact their community?
Well, thank you. I've had the Tamara James Foundation since 2006, since I graduated college. And I've always known that I wanted to help community, and I've always known that I wanted to be a part of the change within our communities, because I grew up in an area that was underserved and impoverished. I know what it felt like to go without. And so that community where I was born and raised, throughout all those years, it still was without when I became, an adult, and I wanted to have a seat at the table to change those things. I would encourage people to look at their communities and to really be engaged, because it's at the community level, it's at the level where you strip yourselves of any titles and you see what you can do for someone else. And it's at those times where you truly get to build stronger communities. And then when you mix that in with government, and then you add the financial support and the policies and the ordinances and the resolutions behind that, you are able to add the infrastructure and the economic and social aspects of government to be able to put that all together, and it comes out in a beautiful way, and it is very satisfying.
I find that very interesting because I began my community work pretty early in my life through spoken word poetry in high school. And a lot of my peers would be like, they didn't feel like they could impact their community as well because they were so young. What would you say to people with that mindset?
I am the youngest African-American mayor in the city of Dania Beach. And I think that a lot of people will tell you what you can or cannot do. They will put you in a box. But I think, and I know that when you look at these last elections in last November, when you look at how the world continues to change, they are changing with you all. They're changing with our youth. They're changing with our high schoolers. They're changing with our babies. And so I say to people who say, we're too young, I say shame on you, because we truly are the future of politics. We are the future of medicine. We are the future of arts and culture. We are just the future. And so I don't really pay attention to the naysayers. I love the quote that the people who does the booing usually have the cheap seats.
Yes, it's funny that you brought up this past year and especially this summer because I've never been so inspired by young people, seeing them out on the streets and protesting and fighting for what they believe in. It was really beautiful to see. And I completely agree with you. We are the future, and I really encourage young people to get involved. And I think what it takes is seeing people like you in representative seats in politics and just following your lead. So how much do you feel that representation is important, especially for young people in politics?
I know that representation is important. It is vitally important. Um, I have this thing. I don't go everywhere dressed up, so you won't see me often in a dress. You see how I have like my alma mater shirt on, and I'm just real comfortable and relaxed. I find myself to be more effective when I am relatable. So when I walk to a park, I may have on basketball shorts. I may have on leggings. I just may look like the ordinary resident, and that's important for our kids to see. It's important for our residents to see because a lot of times we have this image of what it's supposed to look like to be a mayor, what it's supposed to sound like to be a mayor. And we're normal human beings. And so when I'm able to go into communities and then when they can touch you, when you're able to go into schools and these kids are able to run up and hug you, when you can have a conversation about anything from what's happening in local politics to maybe some of your TV shows that you like to watch, you build relationships with people who thought that this could never be possible. And then you open up a world of opportunities for our youth who feel like they aren't good enough. They aren't white enough. They aren't skinny enough. They don't look the part. And there really isn't a look because I look like a mayor. You look like a mayor. My son looks like a mayor. And so it's very important for us to really be able to go into those communities, be able to be relatable to the people who we are serving, and to build those relationships because there is often a disconnect between community and government. And I have been on a mission to kind of bridge that gap and to change the narrative of what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like.
Awesome. Thank you for your wonderful insight. That was amazing. We will now pass it over to my fellow moderator, Bianca.
Greetings, everybody. And today I have the absolute privilege to be talking to Mayor Felicia Brunson. So hello, Ms. Brunson. How you doing today?
I'm great, Bianca. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, many people are advocates, but there are few in this world who are change agents like yourself. In your opinion, what is the difference and how does one position their purpose to bring effective change in their communities?
Great question. Great question. I just believe that they are pretty much one and the same. An advocate is basically someone who champions a cause. And the change agent is basically the person who sees it through fruition. So you can't be one without the other. And as an elected official, that is something that we pretty much do every day. We are speaking to our residents. We are out in the communities. We are seeing different needs and we're finding out what those issues are. And then we're transforming it to make sure that we make things better for our residents. We are influencers. We make sure that we're getting out there and making sure information is being put out so that people's lives can be better. All we are some, pretty much change agent advocates are just people who inspire and influence each other. We champion causes, we transform things, we make sure that the job gets done on behalf of those who cannot do it for themselves.
Thank you, Mayor Brunson. And something that really resonates with me with your story is that you started at the ground. You started as a volunteer in your community and you made it into the political realm. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you, your nonprofit organization, Vision of Images, Inc., has done an amazing job bridging the intergenerational gap between youth and senior citizens. Your nonprofit has allowed you to gain firsthand experience of knowing your constituents' needs. In your experience, how do we truly bridge the gap between older and younger generations in regards to civic engagement?
Well, first, let me just say this. It is of the utmost importance that we bridge that gap. We don't know where we're going unless we know where we've been. So how do we figure that out? That means that we glean from those who have come before us. I grew up with great grandparents, and as a little child, you sit at their feet, you listen to them, you gain wisdom, you gain knowledge for them. That is how you learn. So as I started my journey into public service, at that time, West Park had an older generation, mostly an older generation. And so we wanted to make sure that we made their lives better so that they can in turn make their children and their children's children's lives better. And it's that whole thing about, you have to be able to leave a legacy so that people know who you were, know what everything was about you, and what you need to do to continue. So I believe that it's important for young people to engage themselves, to learn from our other generations. Again, you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And then also, once you do get that knowledge from your older generation, it's up to you to pay it forward. One of my favorite quotes is, "The eyes of the future are looking back at us, and they're praying for us to see beyond our time." So as young folks, that is what you need to do, is to make sure that you're taking the information and bringing it forth for future generations.
Thank you, Mayor Brunson. And I can definitely relate with that. I was never a mother or father's child growing up. I was a granny's baby. And my granny, she made everything possible for me to continue on with my advocacy efforts. So history does repeat itself. And I do believe the intergenerational gap needs to be closed. I have one final question for you, Mayor Brunson, and that is, as we know, in the past, there has not been a lot of Black female representation in politics. And we are now making space for us at the table. What are some challenges that you have had to endure as a Black female politician, and how do you persevere?
Well, I mean, it's the same that we've always had to deal with, dealing with your male counterparts. People, you have two things going against you. Number one, you're female. Number two, you're Black. So sitting with your other counterparts and making them understand and demand and command respect from them. And it's a fine line that we have to deal with every day. It exists in every area of our lives. So we just have to make sure that our voices are heard. And not only do we need to sit at that table, we need to make sure that we're on the menu, we are part of the menu on the table so that we can take over the table. So I think it's important for us as women leaders to understand our role, to make sure that we are making clear, concise decisions, and making sure that we demand and command the respect of our counterparts.
I love it, Mayor Brunson. Demand and command. That is the term for this year. Well, I just want to thank you so much for giving your time, and I appreciate you answering my questions. And next, we will have Miss Jasmine with her questions in her interviewee.
Thank you so much for Bianca for that introduction. So last but certainly not least, we have Florida House of Representatives member Felicia Simone Robinson. How are you doing today?
I am blessed and highly favored.
That's amazing. All righty, so let's get right into it. Currently, 13 out of 120 members of the Florida House of Representatives are Black women. We can look back in history to understand how important representation is in politics. So I'm curious to know what you think representation contributes to the impact of civic engagement, and why is representation crucial to the effectiveness of civic engagement?
Well, first of all, representation definitely matters, especially when you talk about civic engagement. People desire representation that most times looks like them, which is somewhat important, but more importantly, people desire representation with people that actually listen and understand their needs. They want representation that they can actually relate to and meet with. Civic engagement works best when you're listening, because you first need to listen before you can actually take action. I would say civic engagement happens when representation is they elevate their voices and make sure that what the people actually need is being heard and taken into account. Civic engagement, I would say, is effective when people trust their representation. So you have to be able to build that relationship and that trust with your community so that they'll want and understand that, hey, you are a part of them. And so that's what I would say, that it's really important that you understand the issues and their concerns so that you can actually work to get them done.
Yes. 100%, 100%. So share with me your favorite moment that you experienced as a Black woman with a seat at the Florida House of Representatives.
Well, the Florida representative is somewhat new because we just started session actually on Tuesday. So we have been doing committee weeks since January. One of the things that I was very proud of is that since I've been here, I was appointed to 4 committees, and the committees that I've been actually appointed to, really is going to allow me to have an impact to my community. I was appointed to the Health and Human Services Committee, the Post-Secondary Education and Career Development Committee, Children, Family, and Seniors Subcommittee, and then the State Administration and Technology Appropriations. And that was very exciting for me because each and every last one of them will allow me to have a major impact on the community that I actually serve.
That is phenomenal. I love that. So switching gears a little bit, prior to your career in politics, you spent 24 years in the education system. So I'm assuming that investing in the youth is something that is very important to you. As a member of the Florida House of Representatives, what seed do you want to plant in the field of education? What impact would you like to make?
So you are definitely correct. Education is my passion because it literally connects the dots on so many issues. I've always said, when you know better, you do better. Even if you don't necessarily want to do better, you will because you can't really help it. I like to see some creative legislation about internship programs that would aggressively place students in Florida industry and professions so that we don't lose our talent. What I have noticed is a lot of times we have students that goes to school or go to college here in Florida. However, when they graduate, they're not able to actually find work and stay here. So I'm looking at legislation that would help with that. And then another thing, for a long time, I also like to see us address the skilled work gap in Florida. So I do realize that although we have a certain portion that are going to colleges and higher education, we have some that are not going to go to college. So for long, I think that it's important that our education shift from being one-sided. Everyone is not going to go to college and they're not going to be on that track. So we have to start looking at how we can bring programming that will allow our skilled labor education programs to grow. We need to think about how we educate our entrepreneurships. We have many students who begin businesses in elementary school or before they finish elementary school. And I would like to concentrate on innovation hubs that can create thoughtful partnerships between government, academia, and private sectors so that we can actually get these students to flourish and really help to build Florida.
I felt that on a personal level. As someone who has been striving every single summer to get an internship, to find opportunities and continuously just grind towards having opportunities after graduation, it really means a lot to me that you see the hustle of the students and want to implement something that makes it easier for us to gain opportunities. So I really, really do appreciate that. So thank you so much for being here with us. And I am going to pass it over to Bianca for the close.
Thank you, Jasmine. So today we just want to give a special thanks to the politicians that were here today for our conversation. The mayor of West Park, Ms. Felicia Brunson, the mayor of Dania Beach, Ms. Tamara Jones, and Florida House of Representatives member, Ms. Felicia Simone Robinson. Such powerful women. We are so grateful to have them today. We would also like to thank the South Broward Alumnae Chapter for hosting this wonderful event. And thank you, our audience and listeners. Here's a quick reminder that civic engagement does not take a lot of work. To be an active member in your community, you can do little things to make a change, such as writing a letter to your representatives, participating in jury duty, volunteering in polling stations, attending town hall meetings, and learning more about the issues in your community. And most importantly, you must vote, and vote, especially in the local elections. Once again, we want to thank everybody for coming here today, and we thank you for this conversation in civic engagement.
Happy Women's History Month. My name is Kim Gaines, and I am the president of the South Broward Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. On behalf of our 167 chapter members, I would like to thank our fabulous committee chairs, Mrs. Kimberly Sharp Ingram and Ms. Sharonda Glover, for their vision with this project. Thank you to all of our local politicians who partnered with us on this project. Thank you also goes to our HBCU students who did the interviewing for this project. And lastly, we want to thank you for joining us in this conversation on civic engagement. Thank you.